Welcome to Mental Health Without Borders, the global wellness podcast with Dr. Lindsay Frey, where we dive into the complexities of mental health from a global perspective, exploring how different cultures approach wellness and what we can learn from one another. This episode is sponsored by Finding Hope Wellness Center in Tampa, Florida, where individuals, families, and couples can go to receive hope and healing for their mental health. Go to www.findinghopewellnesscenter.com to find out more. So let's get started. In this episode, I'm joined by Richard Krebs, a clinician with a master's in clinical mental health counseling, who brings a unique blend of humor, insight, and cross-cultural experience to his work. Based originally in Alabama, but shaped by his time living in South Korea, Richard works with adolescents and adults, integrating wellness, strength, and creative expression into the therapy space. So welcome, Richard.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be
Yes, thank you for being here. I'm so happy that we were able to connect, and I'm excited to hear more about your story and your journey. So can you first share your journey and what inspired you to become a therapist?
Yeah, absolutely. At the core of kind of what inspired me to be a therapist is my own journey through grief and loss, like kind of with some initial grief of like losing my mom's parent within the same hour of one another, and just kind of going through my own like grieving experience, as well as watching my parents and my brother and other extended family kind of go through theirs. And then just really the grief, the depression kind of like state that I hit kind of like during that time, but then just kind of asking the question, like, why do people do what they do? So that question, but also along with my grief journey, but also how my perspective on grief has transformed over the years is a really big part of what inspired me to want to be a therapist.
Mm-hmm. I can absolutely relate to that. I don't know if you know anything about my story, but grief was what caused me to become a therapist as well.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I lost 4 friends in car accidents and medical emergencies, I guess you can say, between 13 and 16 years old. So that was one of those kind of things that back then, I grew up in the 90s, probably similar ages, but I grew up in the 90s, and so mental health wasn't the same. How old were you when you experienced the grief that you did?
So my grandparents, it was a month before my 13th birthday. And so, yes, right at a month before, like they passed away within like 30 minutes of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is really, really hard at that age. That is so young to lose both of your grandparents at the same time.
And their story and just their love for each other, like it was a perfect way for them to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Heartbreak. Absolutely. A lot of people say that can be a cause. And so did you receive mental health help at the time?
I did not. Not that it wouldn't have been offered or available to me. I just didn't think to ask.
Right. Yeah. And that was part of mine too, is that I didn't discover psychology through meeting with a professional.
Yeah.
I discovered it through a psychology textbook in high school and learned about it later on. And then I started putting the pieces together of what I had experienced. So it sounds kind of similar. And so your grief journey kind of took you into being interested in learning more about mental health?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so can you share a little bit now about your specialty and the clients with which you work? You said that you have a different take on grief. Is that a part of your work that you do now as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I told people about the whole story about how I came to be a therapist, also part of my like salvation story, like kind of like faith story. Big point I kind of make with grief now is that obviously, and I think kind of with those of us like who do have like kind of a spiritual background, like for me, it's Christianity. So we're kind of in that too, like, for those of us who like lose family members who are in Christ, like it's not a loss because then it's just complete. Like you're never going to get them or get that relationship back. But instead, it's more so a separation that leads to a great reunion, in heaven one day. And that's just my personal beliefs. But I think in that too, like the pain in which like you feel in grief, while it is a great pain and it's not fun because pain sucks, nobody likes it. It's actually a beautiful thing because it shows you just how much of a gift that person was while they were still there with you, but even more so how they continue to be a gift to you even beyond death. If people pass away, you don't really care about them. You don't really care to think much about them. There's not much pain there, but the amount of pain there just shows just how impactful those people were to you.
Yeah. So that grief, it serves a purpose and it shows you that. Absolutely. I can understand that. And I think too, with a faith background, I have a faith background as well. I'm a Christian. And so there is that hope, the kind of like physical and human pain that we experience here, but then the hope to be able to kind of meet up again. So I can relate with that. And so with the clients that you work and the specialty that you have, what are about the ages that you work with currently?
Yeah, so with me being completely telehealth right now, the age range, some of my youngest, I think they're like 8 or 9, but then most of them are like from like ages 12 to 60, 70, stuff like that. So pretty wide range there. Certified in MDR, so I see work do like a lot of trauma work with clients, like grief, like typical like anxiety and depression. As far
Mm.
as special populations, I brief sent in addiction treatment in 2020, but then as far as like more specialized populations now, I do still have some that struggle with addiction, but then also working with veterans. Love my veteran clients and really love and have a passion for working with that population as well.
Absolutely. That's a huge need. There's some amazing veterans in my life, and they really, really do need that
Yeah.
help and care. And to be able to reach out is absolutely important too. And so, completely telehealth. So, are your clients coming from the United States primarily?
Yeah, due to my visa situation over here, like I can't see any clients here in Korea, but most of my clients are from like Alabama and Florida.
From Alabama and Florida, you're licensed there. Okay, fantastic. It's so amazing how the world has opened up and allowed us to do this, which is
Absolutely.
so great to be able to travel or to move and still be able to be connected to the clients in the United States. I think it's just fantastic. And so, talk about what led to the move to South Korea and what has surprised you most about the culture there.
Yeah. So really our journey to here has kind of been just a massive like series of like prayer just over years. Like my wife, even like when we were dating, she said she always had a dream to live abroad for a few years and like specifically like teach English. She went on a mission trip to China in 2015 and like she just really fell in love with kind of the Asian culture, but also like ESL kind of as a profession, like as a job. And that's really when that kind of like passion like kind of started a fire within her. And then so she went to UAB, graduated with ESL master's degree, and then we made the move here. Is just kind of we felt called and led to come here and like serve and live here for a period of time. Right now it's 2 years, but we'll see if it extends beyond that. Yeah, it's been incredible. I think some of the biggest adjustments kind of going. So like obviously, coming from Alabama and like, I guess kind of the South in general, like can be a little bit more of a slower pace compared to what maybe other people like other countries are used to. Where some of the big adjustments is in like Korea, it's called like Bali Bali culture, which is like very like fast paced, very on the go, on the move, to where in some aspects like kind of prestige and productivity are king. In some aspects, like they very much
Mhm.
like value academics, prestige, status, but then also productivity and efficiency. And so I think just kind of the fast pace of that, but then also some like the like social norms and customs. Like in the South, like you see somebody walking down the street, you like look at him, like smile, say, "Hey, how's it going?" Stuff like that. What I found out due to like one of our Korean friends here is that if you like look elders, like because South Korea is like very heavy influence from like Confucianism and like their beliefs
Mhm.
and stuff like that, to where there's like a very high emphasis on kind of respect of elders, but just respect in general. To where if you, at least what I found out, what I understood was like if you look elders in the eye, it's actually disrespectful. So I was actually disrespecting elders for months on accident, and I'm just like full on like straight ahead, like looking ahead, so just to make sure I don't make any kind of accidentally disrespectful eye contact.
It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I know I've been in the South in Alabama, and it is very, very friendly culture and
Mhm.
people saying hi to one another, whether you know each other or not. It seems like everybody knows each other because of
Yeah.
that. And so to go from it's respect to say hello and acknowledge someone to it's disrespectful to acknowledge
Yeah.
someone is completely different. So I understand that there are probably a lot of adjustments, but some adjustments that you really don't know until you're in the culture and you learn.
Mhm.
Did you do a lot of prep before you moved, trying to learn about the culture?
So my wife and I, like, my wife's been involved in the Korean church since probably 2015 or 2016 when she moved to Tallahassee for a music therapy internship. So she'd been kind of in kind of the culture like via like church for like several years. When we got married, we were going to an American church for a time, but then we transitioned to a Korean church in like 2019, like right before the pandemic hit. And then we've just been involved in like Korean church community ever since. So that's kind of a little bit of our integration into the culture, but then also like bits and pieces here and there, just trying to learn Korean. But she took a Korean class back in college at University of Alabama. But then like my integration into it was just whenever we got married and kind of
Right.
started to join a Korean church.
Absolutely. Has it been hard to pick up the language?
The alphabet is not hard. I think it's just, I mean, like with any language, I think it's just understanding, like gaining vocabulary, like the grammar and stuff like that. I'll be honest, I haven't been as adamant on studying as I've needed to be, but that's hopefully
Mm.
something within this like second year of being here that I want to spend more intentional time with,
Right.
just
And
to
just
kind of
picking
like
up
reduce
things.
the language barrier.
Absolutely. And I'm sure it helps if your wife has studied some and can kind
Yeah,
of help with some
right.
of the basics that she knows as well. Are there any cultural traditions or wellness practices that you've personally adopted since
I
being
think
there?
one thing that I love about Korea and like kind of the wellness culture is like how walkable the country is. Like, so there's like tons of like sidewalks, and then I think one of your previous guests from India, they may have like mentioned something too of like how like on the sidewalks and stuff like that, you'll see like random like outdoor exercise equipment that
Mhm.
people can kind of just use kind of as they want to. So like Korea has that too. So I think really just the emphasis on like health and well being. Like I was hiking a mountain that's nearby our apartment complex probably a month or two ago. These people, they're like grandma and like grandpa age, like senior citizens, like just hiking it and they look just fine. Meanwhile, I'm like gasping for air. So like just like the amount of like fitness, but also the pride they take in their bodies and caring for it is like really, really inspiring to see.
Yeah, I really like that too. I have this dream of living in a walkable city. I really love that about other places that I visited. And it's just so nice to be outside and
Mhm,
be in all places. I had interviewed somebody from Denmark as well, and he said the same, where
mhm,
it's very walkable. Everybody rides bikes, everybody
mhm.
swims all the time.
Yeah.
And their just kind of general view on everyday living is
Mhm.
way more outside and way more movement than we have
Yeah.
just naturally. So we have to emphasize exercise because we don't naturally get some of the things that
Right.
our body needs every day, whereas other
Mhm,
cultures sometimes don't have to emphasize that quite as much.
mhm.
I love that you love that. That's something that I would definitely enjoy as well. And so, how has living in South Korea shaped your personal or professional perspective on mental health? I'm not sure how much you've kind of understood that or interacted with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
culture in terms of mental health.
So for me, like kind of what I joke about, but also like serious, and my coworkers and my wife will absolutely agree with this. Like I'm a recovering workaholic. So I think kind of like in that too is like kind of seeing some of the academic pressures that are like put on the kids, as well as like sometimes like the schedules that the students kind of do have. Like, so for example, like some kids, like they'll go to school from like 8 to like 3, 3:30, 4:30 or whatever. They may have a break, but then they go to what's called a hagwon, which is kind of like another academic kind of program where they get like tutoring, kind of additional help, additional studies and stuff like that. And sometimes that could go kind of well into the evening, to where I think from an academic standpoint, it's good. But I think just for me, kind of my own personal belief and experience is like, I think that also kind of sets up maybe like unhealthy expectations as far as how much to work and like stuff like that, to where then it could lead to like increased rates of like burnout, anxiety, depression, comparison, and stuff like that. But I
Mhm.
think not all kids in Korea do it, but I think in that too, it's just the importance of like being able to like model and like practice early what a healthy balance of like work and like personal and like leisure time is. And so,
Mhm. Yeah, it's a lot. It's really interesting too because your perspective is different than some that I've talked to because a
mm,
lot of people found that moving from the states where productivity is very, very emphasized and a lot of probably other states, maybe more so than Alabama. I know even down here, it's like work, 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 but
mhm,
to go from a culture that's faster paced, where I've
mhm,
seen some where it's the opposite, where they came from the US that was faster paced and then the new culture was
yeah,
way slower paced. So for
yeah,
you, it's really kind of taking both of those and trying to balance
mm,
living in your space with as much balance as you can because
right,
you have to kind of go back and forth between the two cultures. So I
mhm,
wonder if that's also kind of a mind shift for you. So how do you balance one culture while working with clients from another, right? Because you've got these two perspectives kind of
right.
competing.
I think one really cool and interesting thing that like kind of this whole experience has been able to like give me and kind of give my wife is like in America, like you see like black people, you see white people, you see Asians, you see Hispanics, you see Middle Easterns, and you just like, oh, they're here. But I think what questions like you don't really ask is like, okay, well, what's your experience been?
Mhm.
It's like we just see people like, oh, like they're in America. But we just think they have like the typical American experience. You're like, you go to work, you do that. And, it happens here. It's the Korean version of it. But I think kind of in that as well is just like with my experience being a foreigner, and like if I see other foreigners like in the States, I'm like, all right, how are you doing? Because moving overseas, like moving to a different country can be incredibly difficult, especially if they don't speak the same language as you, and you know how to do things in your own country. But then when you move to a different country, you have to figure out all over again like how to do basic living in a new place. So I think from like personal perspective, like definitely having more compassion and empathy like towards those who are foreigners in other places, whether it be America or other places, just because I think compassion is sometimes in certain communities, it's the last thing shown to foreigners. It's just like,
Mhm.
hey, like you chose to move here, so learn the language, like ship up or shape out. But in that too, it's like I know my wife and I, when we first got here, we didn't know how to do much of anything. I mean, we knew a little bit. So we came like a year before to like vacation slash preview to see if we could live here. But I think kind of in that too was like, sometimes they're just as like confused and like scared. And I think one thing also, the privilege we have as Americans is like, with it being the business language of the world, a lot of stuff can accommodate to us. Whereas like if I was coming from a Spanish speaking country into Korea, okay, would I have any kind of like chance to either know the Korean alphabet or I need to know English first, to where that's even a further disadvantage because it's like double language barrier. Because in Korea, it's more prone to be translated to English versus any other language.
We absolutely do have privilege there. I know I just went to visit Greece in February. Their language is so vastly different.
Yeah.
And I've been to Italy. It was a little bit easier to understand. I'm into Spanish-speaking culture, so it was easier. But with Greek, it was totally different. But there was English almost everywhere. It was either Greek or English. And so I was definitely grateful. And everybody learns English in school, I believe, there, or in many schools, they learn English. And so we definitely are privileged in that way, for sure. And so having compassion with people that don't know the language, or even here in the United States where it is a melting pot, we have people from all cultures trying to be more compassionate towards our neighbors that are coming in from other cultures. I think that's a really good, just some good advice for people to be more compassionate and understanding on how hard it is, and not so, insistent that you came here and you need to know this right now walking in day one, because you've had a journey, and I'm sure you've probably experienced grace from people that you are really grateful for when you're just doing your best and wanting to live there and wanting to be a part of it. And so what do you think about some of the aspects of South Korean daily life or community support could potentially benefit U.S. clients if they applied it in their own lives? One of the things, just even as I asked that question, is the walkable city. We have a challenge with that because our cities aren't created to be that way. So it's like, I would say that would be so great to adopt that, but we would have to create it first before we would actually be able to experience it. But I'm sure there's other things that could probably benefit us. I've talked to lots of people where they do things a little bit differently that could be helpful, and vice versa, things that we do here that could be helpful to other cultures. And that's kind of the idea behind this podcast. So what do you think are some things that maybe we could do a little bit differently?
I think definitely kind of like integrating kind of like breaks a little bit more kind of into the workday, to where it's not just like, okay, like you got this. I mean, obviously the hour lunch is great and it's very much needed. But I think even kind of in that too, like if certain workplaces could encourage, like, hey, we're going to have like a 10 to 15 minute nothing break, to where like, hey, if you need to go out to your car, like if you need like decompress in your office, I would encourage, just because with me being overseas, but also working with US clients, like I work from home. And just due to like the time difference and stuff too, just encouraging getting out, getting fresh air. Like if you can walk somewhere, great. But if not, just for me, like I'm really big on like unplugging and like de-screening, like just no electronics, no screens, and just exist for a minute. Cause I think that's one of the last things people do nowadays. Like I know for me, like I can be guilty of, hey, I got a free moment. All right, let me get on my phone. Let me go on my social media. Let me check emails and stuff. But in that too, it's just all that's going to be there when you get back. Like, so really just taking that intentional time to just exist and breathe. Just when you're in a fast paced, steady world, steady society, like everything's changing, everything's moving. But just because that's happening doesn't always mean you have to move with it all the time. So I think there's definitely that. And I think some of the cultural aspects, with Korea having like a very high emphasis on respect, on specifically kind of respect of the elders, care and respect and the accommodations they have to like the senior citizens is definitely really good. I mean, I think we do have it, definitely to some degree in America. But I think with some of the ways that Korea does it, with like special seats on the trains and like subways, other accommodations and supports to the elderly community, I think is, really great and important things to consider. But I think kind of in that too, like even if, going back to like the being outside, it's like being able to kind of share meals and like share like fellowship with other people instead of like just staying to yourself. Cause I think kind of with some of the cultural aspects of like Korea, like, unless you're like friends or like family with somebody, everybody pretty much stays to themselves, like kind of as they're walking and as they're doing things, which, me coming from like Southern United States, it's very different and like difficult because again, like culturally, like what I perceive is like rude and disrespectful. It's just culture here. If they don't talk to you, if they don't look at you, I'm like, oh, okay, good talk. That was a really good chat we had where you said nothing. But in that too, that's their culture, but also most Koreans, if they don't have fluent English, they feel insecure about their English ability. So then therefore they just choose not to speak it. Whereas I'm sure Americans, us, were the same way. If we were to meet somebody who's Spanish, we've only had basic survival Spanish, may not feel comfortable speaking in their native tongue to them. And so I joke with the gym that I go to, like people ask, like, how do you talk to like the gentleman? And I was like, okay, well, he speaks in like broken English. I speak in shattered Korean. So just completely
We just
wrecked
get there.
Korean. Right. We just get, we find a way. So,
Yeah, you find a way.
yeah.
That's great. Have you tried the Google Translate? Like, I've tried it overseas, but it's so difficult. I know it takes time, but I don't
Some
know
of the
if you've tried
translations are
it.
weird. It's like, oh, this is what you're saying. They're like, "Adio," like, which means, like, no in Korean. It's got all kinds of different languages. It's called Papago, so that has been an
Mhm.
absolute lifesaver for us. You can do, like, speech, but it can also do, like, images, so you can, like, scan a product, and it'll
Oh,
tell you what the
nice.
translation is, so
That's really good. Apps are definitely helpful for that
mm,
these days. I think that's
so
really great.
yeah.
And I like what you said as far as taking breaks. I posted about that just this morning, the importance of not only taking breaks throughout the day, but take breaks with intention and change your environment.
Mhm.
And so even if it's walking outside or taking a walk around the block and coming back, or just if you are doing virtual, move to a different place in your
Yeah.
house as you're taking that 10
Mhm.
to 15-minute break will immediately start to relax you a little bit. But if you just stay in that space, you kind of stay in that heightened, almost like stress space without even realizing it. I am so bad at this myself. So I can talk about it all day long, but I have to force myself. I get up and I move and I go because so much of my job is sitting with clients and listening throughout the day. And I've got a lot of stuff I have to do on my computer. So I really do have to emphasize that. And we all in my group practice try to encourage each other to do that, to get up, go have lunch in the break room, not in your office. Let's go take a walk outside. Let's go sit in each other's office and say hello, just to change it a little bit. So that is a good thing and it can be helpful. And we just don't realize it until we start doing it, how helpful it can be for the rest of the day. And so I know over here over the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, mental health has gained a lot more global attention.
Mhm.
And so, what do you think is driving this increased awareness? And are you seeing the same in their culture? I know you don't kind of have a prior view of the culture, but at the same time, if you know the general view of mental
Mhm.
health in the culture.
Yeah, there are definitely some similar aspects with US, but I think there's also like some that are uniquely different. And I'd say this with my perspective, my beliefs on I do not speak for all of Korean culture. Like I'm a white guy from Alabama, so it's just like I'm speaking from my
It's your
experience. Yeah,
perspective.
my
Yes.
perspective. I
Hmm.
think kind of in that too, with prestige and productivity and like academics king in Korea sometimes. In the US we call it maintaining our image or reputation. In Asian countries, they call it like keeping face. So kind of the face, what you present to other people, to where I think kind of in that as well, like there's this incredible stigma around mental health and like just the fears of if I get treatment for it, if people know that it exists, like the amount of damage and repercussions that could come from it. So I was like doing like some research and there was like this article that was published, I think probably late March of this year, to where kind of like they've seen anxiety and depression rates kind of increase to at least up to 50% in people. And then there's probably about, I think, 90% people surveyed said that they fear that they would lose the possibility of like a job promotion or like job advancement if it was to be found out that they were receiving mental health services. And then there was also a very high percentage that feared that they would lose friendships or relationships if a mental health issue was disclosed. But also with all of that prestige, like being such like a big emphasis, it also causes like a very competitive work culture, like competitive like schooling. And with that comparison also comes judgment, for better or for worse, to where it's kind of like, judging, like seeing how we measure up to other people. How can we climb to the next rung of the ladder? Ideally, for some, doing it with class and character, but then for some, it's just like, hey, whatever I got to do to get there, I'm going to do it, even if it compromises my morals or my values. But I think kind of that intense, like fast paced culture, but then also like be as prestigious, be as accomplished as you can be, and just kind of starting that from the ground up can cause incredible amounts of pressure on people themselves, but then also that can project in other negative ways as well. So that's the importance to
That's
really
really
just kind of
hard.
gain perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. I just can't imagine because you both have the cultural kind of pressure to
Mhm.
be the best you can and to drive it forward. But then if mental health is stigmatized, but yet we all know a result of that can be burnout, it's a huge challenge. It's a huge
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. And especially in
And,
an
and
article, like it definitely talked about some of the respondents said, like, hey, it's all in my head. This will get true. It is in your head, but it
Mhm.
comes out in your body, in your actions, in your words. But then some said, like, hey, this will just be something I deal with. It'll get better with time, maybe. But in that too, it's just like, hey, I'm going to let it ride out. It'll eventually work itself out, which of course, as you and I both know, that's not always the case.
Mhm. Right. And so things like this, I mean, one reason why I wanted to do this is to really talk about mental health on more of a global scale, to bring attention to it,
Mm.
and hopefully drive home that it's good to seek help and it's a sign of strength and not weakness. Even if in your culture you do have to do it in an alternative way, luckily we do have virtual now. So I've heard from other people that I've talked to, just walking into a mental health facility would just not even be possible for a lot of people to do because of the fear of people seeing them or judgment or what that might look like. But the virtual aspect is still there.
Yeah.
So if there are people listening that need the help, there are plenty of virtual
Yeah,
therapists that are
absolutely.
out there that can help you, and it's confidential and it's private. So please do your research and reach out because
Yeah,
there's people available to help,
absolutely.
virtually. And so living so far from home and going through everything you're doing what you're doing, but then also being a mental health professional and being a giver, it's really important to take care of ourselves, our own health and our own wellness, our own balance. So how do you take care of your own mental wellness while supporting other people?
I think for me, one of the biggest things that's helped me, like, kind of since being here, but also, like, working from home, has been, like, going to the gym maybe, like, 3, 4 days a week just to kinda get out outside and to walk kinda to the gym and talking, chattered Korean to, like, the gym owner, but also making connections and friends there, but also letting kind of the gym time be my time to obviously work on my physical health, but also decompress mentally and just kinda have an escape from everything. Been listening to a lot of podcasts recently too. I listen to some podcasts, like, back in the States, but then for me, like, now it's like, I got the time, so I might as well just dive into, like, various different podcasts and just get entertained that way. Now that the weather's a lot nicer here, like, just finding, like, different places to hike and stuff when I can. But the city that I'm living in is not Seoul, which means Seoul, like, I would equate to kinda like a New York City vibe and stuff, with, like, the fast pace, the industrialization of it. This is kinda more so, like, kind of what's considered by Korean standards, kind of a small town place, the city I'm living in, so it's a little bit more, so obviously still a lot of buildings and stuff, but a little bit more farmy compared to, like, other places in Korea.
And so getting out, working out. I think one nice thing about the gym is you can kind of develop your own little community, right? If you go to this about the same time every day, then you might see the same people and start to develop connections there. So
Yeah.
it can be like a social wellness activity and a
Yeah.
physical wellness activity as well. And then as we know, it also helps our own mental health, wellness, stress, and those kind of things to move our bodies. And I know that I had read somewhere too that for you, it's really important you like to be outside, you like to have outdoor adventures, but you also like to bring in humor
Yes.
to your life. And so how do you integrate that? And is that kind of a part of your wellness, is kind of diving into
Oh, yeah.
humor?
Yeah, absolutely. Even, like, the clients that I see, like, I'm the king of, like, self-deprecating humor and, like, horrible
Mhm.
drawings. So I joke with people is, like, when I'm on telehealth with people, like, in just telehealth, I'm like, "How tall do I sound?" Just 'cause, like, to see, like, if my voice is, like, 5'9", 5'10". I was like, "You are the sweetest human alive. I'm 5'6". Like, I'm what you call a short king, okay? But, but I think kind of integrating, like, humor into it just because that's my personality, but then also I kinda unnerve the nerves that a client may feel, like, especially if it's their first time talking with me or just therapy in general, kinda help just kinda dilute kinda some of the nerves there. But then just kind of doing other things too, like, I do, like, creative outlet for me has been, like, voiceovers, like, voice acting and stuff like that, so, like, doing, like, voice impersonations and stuff like that, so sometimes that's a little bit fun to, like, engage with the clients and, like, just get them laughing, like, entertained, so
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah.
I'm sure that they love it, especially the
Yeah.
children and adolescents.
Oh, yeah.
I probably make them laugh out loud at least once a day 'cause I'm the same and it's all self-deprecating.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I talk about anxiety, like, hey, here's the first one to talk about certain areas of anxiety that
Right.
have gotten me in trouble. Oh, you're
Yeah.
worried about forgetting your words when you get on stage? Well, let me tell you about the time that I did,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
Or let me tell you about the time I fell. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think that can be really helpful to connect with them and cut the nerves. I think that that's
Yeah.
important. And just with the nature of what we do, just in experiencing joy and laughter and making people smile in the midst of
Yeah.
hardship, I think is really important. So I love that you incorporate that. And so I just have to ask again, voice impersonations. So
Yeah.
do you do that for any kind of job or just for fun?
One of my best friends, he's actually also a therapist. He's written his own book series, so I did, like, voiceover work for him for audiobooks and stuff. Some of the characters I incorporated voices, but most of the characters I didn't, but then just, voice acting is just kinda like something I've always, like, admired, like, from other people, like, for years and experimenting, like, just trying different impersonations myself, and so
Mhm.
that's been a lot of fun and just been fun to kinda joke around with and do for clients.
Yeah, that is absolutely wonderful,
Mhm.
and it's just a fun thing to dive into. It's kind of like tapping into the creative side of your brain in a way and trying
Yeah.
something different. And so what's next for you? Do you have any exciting projects or personal goals or anything on the horizon?
As far as professionally, nothing really on the horizon right now, although I think internal family systems has been, like, a really buzzing like type of like therapy modality kind of going on. I mean, it probably has for years, but I feel like especially recently it's been a lot more talked about and kind of requested. So I've thought about, I'm certified in EMDR right now, but I've also thought about exploring kind of more of internal family systems and kind of maybe getting a few trainings on that just to become more acclimated to it, as well as possibly like think about getting more educated on like treating eating disorders. Because like that's definitely an area that I have no experience or like not a whole lot of knowledge in. So then there's that. And then like personally just working to learn more Korean.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's going to be another big chunk of time
Yes.
in its own, I'm sure. But I think IFS, like Eternal Family Systems, I think it's so important when we do work with children and adolescents. I don't know a lot about it. I've learned some about it,
Mhm.
but I agree. I think that if you do work with any level of family, children, teens, and then adults too, it's so good to dive into that and learn more. It's something that I love about our field is that it's so vast.
Yes.
There's always something to learn. There's always
Absolutely.
something new that you can kind of put in your toolkit, I guess you can say, as a therapist, and keeps it interesting, right? It keeps it
Mhm.
going. So
Absolutely.
really like that. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for
Thank you.
coming on here
Hey,
today.
honored to be here.
We will absolutely. And for the people that are listening that might want to find you, especially here in Florida and Alabama, where can people find you or follow you?
So I'm on Psychology Today, Richard Krebs. It'll come up as Alabaster, Alabama, because that's where my main practice is. Shout out Warrior Wellness Group, people back at home. You can also look on www.warriorwellnessgroup.com. That's where I'm at. That's where everybody else in my practice is. Feel free to find us there. I'm also on TikTok. Some of that is mental health. Some of that is just me being me. So take it or leave it for what it is. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, so all those various avenues. But also they're welcome to, I don't know if you like share emails, but they're welcome also to
Mhm.
email me with any kind of questions or inquiries
Okay,
about anything.
perfect.
Mhm.
Great. Yep. I will add that to the show notes too, just so that anybody that wants to reach out can reach out or they
Yeah,
can find you or learn more about you. And so thank you so much for joining me today on Mental Health Without Borders.
absolutely. Thanks so
It's
much for having me.
Yes, I'm so glad that we were able to connect. And it's been an incredible conversation. Thank you for allowing me to learn so much about you and your work, what you're doing, where you're living. And so, as a listener, I hope that you found some valuable insights today to take with you. Remember, no matter where you are in the world or where you come from, your mental wellness truly matters. So, be patient with yourself, take time for your well being, and never forget that seeking help is a sign of strength. No matter the distance or challenges, we are all in this journey together. So, be kind to yourself, and I look forward to connecting with you next time on Mental Health Without Borders.